Now, some of you guys know I am Catholic. I live in Austin, where it's really common to be like spiritual but not religious. I'm religious but not spiritual. And honestly, that is my best effort, guys. I was a lifelong atheist before I converted. Like, that is about the best I can do, to be honest. And when people hear that I converted from atheism, I left the freedom of atheism to join the Roman Catholic Church, they're like, oh, why? And that was just the Catholics. And you know, when I converted, I really wanted to do it right. I wanted to step fully into Catholicism. And so now I'm an uptight alcoholic who curses like a sailor and has no regard for family planning. So, you know, I'm making the Pope really proud. One of the things I'm working on, you know, you're supposed to have a friendship with Jesus, and that is truly very important, and I am working on it. But it's not going super well. I do feel like part of that is on Jesus's part. Like, this is a two-way. Listen, my mother is a retired mathematician who calculated kill ratios for the Naval Weapons Research Laboratory. My father was an engineer. My grandfather was an engineer. What I am trying to tell you is I am genetically designed to have a very hard time being friends with invisible people. It's very hard for me. And I know, like, my other friends, they are not the second person of the Trinity. But they do like my posts on Instagram. So I am working on that. Look, my Bible study hated that joke too. I get it. And you know, and I know a lot of people in here do identify as Christian and feel like, you know, like me, like they're not great at it all the time. And so I just want to offer you a word of inspiration that I think it's important that we always keep in mind the idea that, you know, we might have chosen the wrong religion. Let me tell you, like, are you guys familiar with the Viking gods and how petty they are? Look, if the Vikings had it right, and it's Thor and Odin up there, I am killing it spiritually. I mean, those guys are like, look at the way this woman holds a grudge. She never forgives her enemies. I don't know if I'm getting into heaven, but I am definitely getting into Valhalla. I have that locked down. But yeah, like being a convert, I messed stuff up. Like this past Lent, I gave up cursing for Lent because I forgot that the whole thing with what you give up for Lent is that you bring it back in a big way on Easter morning. Easter brunch was a little weird, okay? It was think about this. So we converted to Catholicism, and in my religion, you have to have like actual Catholics to be godparents. So we had to find 12 godparents. Guys, I was raised atheist, my husband was raised Baptist, the bench was not deep. It was not deep. So we had 3 kids when we first converted, and it was a little rough. Mind you, I don't know if you guys have ever gotten to this point in your own godparent selection where you're like, okay, she has a dream catcher, but she has all her sacraments, so. I think this is going to have to work, you know? The culture of my town of Austin is like, it's like Ann Arbor with cowboy hats, okay? Yeah, I mean, it's like you might not be able to find someone to pray with, but like if you need an ayahuasca shaman, like we have plenty of those where I am from. And so I got to the point where I almost went down to the local homeless bar with a megaphone and was like, bless us, O Lord, and anyone who responded would be like, come with me, you're a godparent. Thank you. So, the way that played out was we just kind of had to choose whoever. So these first the godparents for the first 3 kids, we knew a bunch of people in high tech. We worked in high tech. So, not super Catholic, but had their sacraments, but these guys are rich. So this makes Christmas a little weird because we always open the gifts from the godparents at the same time. And so my first 3 kids open their godparent gifts, and it is like a drone, a Barbie dream house with a fully functioning jacuzzi in it. Those kids are like, oh my gosh, these are the best godparents ever. And I'm like, it says happy solstice on the box. Then we get to my youngest child. We chose this child's godparents when we were deep in what I affectionately call the Catholic ghetto. This child's godparents are so Catholic, they think the Latin Mass is too modern. They go to the Aramaic Mass. So he opens his gift, he pulls off the wrapping, and he says, oh, it's a book. The writings of St. Polycarp the Hermit on asceticism. Just what every 8-year-old boy dreams of. I think the reason we baptize our kids as babies is so they can't choose their own godparents. But the culture around us doesn't like Catholicism. They're like, oh, they hate the Catholic Church, I wish it would go away. Okay, but when they know they need us? When their houses are haunted. Try to imagine an exorcism without the Catholic Church. We've been hearing creepy voices coming from the basement. It's a demon. Somebody call a non-denominational worship leader right now. Only a Unitarian can save us now. And so a lot of Catholic traditions are becoming mainstream. People, they give up stuff for Lent, they do Advent, even if they're not Catholic, and I think that's great. But there is one tradition that I tell my non-Catholic friends, you're gonna wanna leave to the Catholics. That's relics. Okay, now a lot of people don't know what that is, so I will explain it. Okay, relics. Okay. How do you? Okay. Look. For our non-Catholic friends here, okay. When a holy person dies, we like to keep a piece of their clothing or like a piece of their body, and we carry it around in little bags. Listen, just because serial killers also do it doesn't mean it's weird. Sometimes we like to go big with our relics if it's a really special saint, like St. Catherine of Siena. So we have a big relic of hers in an old church. The church is like 600 years old in Italy. There is a glass box. She knows. It's her head. It's her whole head. Okay. When you see it in the context of this ancient cathedral church with like the incense and the paintings, it's very beautiful. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm standing next to this person. Well, just their head. This like did so much for God. But listen, but I tell my Protestant friends, I'm like, look, you're gonna want to leave this one to us, okay? Can you imagine if you walked into your local mega church called Celebration Station? coffee shop. There's a glass box with a guy's head in it. And they're like, that's Pastor Cody. He was great. Well, like in England, there's a Catholic church that has the monks who created this church hundreds of years ago, they wanted their skulls to be used to create an altar to remind people to keep their mind, life is fleeting, keep your mind on heavenly things. So there is an altar made of human skulls. And again, Protestant, you don't want to be like, oh yeah, that altar in front of the band, that was the bake sale team, you know? Okay, now there are some Catholic traditions. Traditions that other people do like to get in on. They're more general audience. Like, do you guys know about St. Anthony? Do you know about this? Okay. Oh, good. That's refreshing. Yes. Well, I was just in a city where half the crowd had no idea what I was talking about, and that city was San Antonio. Tradition where when we lose something, we say a prayer to St. Anthony. And listen, we're not praying to them like they have their own power. It's just like asking your neighbor for prayers. I know I'm not doing a very good job of explaining this because I once tried to explain it to my Southern Baptist mother-in-law. And she raised my son as a single mother, tough Texas woman, very, very practical. And so she got in on it. She was very excited. Because it works, right? Does it not? Like, it works. It works. And so, I told her about it, and she would call me. She'd be like, Jennifer, I cannot find these car keys anywhere. Say that prayer. And so I'd say, okay, St. Anthony, please come around. Something is lost and can't be found. She'd say, tell him it's the car keys. So I'd have to do the whole thing again. And I was like, I am a bit of a theologian. I mean, look at me, just sharing the joy of Catholicism with my Southern Baptist mother-in-law. I was pretty impressed with myself, and then one day she lost her tax documents, and she was flipping out. She was like, oh, I can't find these blank tax documents anywhere. She was just absolutely flipping out, and I said, okay, listen, did you say the prayer to St. Anthony? And she said, Jennifer, I prayed to St. Anthony, I prayed to Jesus. Hell, I asked Jesus to say a prayer to St. Anthony.